I hereby call to order this regular meeting of the Board of Education for Wilmette Public Schools, District 39, this Monday, May 22nd, 2023. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Aaron Stone.
Here.
John Cesaretti.
Here.
Ann Hart.
Here.
Bonnie Kim.
Here.
Allison Pathless.
Here.
Amy Paling.
Here.
Lisa Schneider-Fabes.
Here.
Principal Cindy Anderson is here with some Ramona students to lead the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for welcoming us tonight. Ramona has the distinct pleasure of hosting the Lechner Early Education Program, so our preschoolers for the entire district. So this evening, I'm joined by a couple of preschoolers and two of our teachers. So this is Brittany, Miss Brittany Nelson, and she is one of our speech language pathologists. And this is Miss Kristen Johnson, who is our inclusion specialist and will be next year's LEAP coordinator. So now I'm going to ask our preschoolers to introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Jaden. Hi, I'm Caitlin. Hi, I'm Melinda. Hi, I'm Ella. Hi, I'm Finn. Hi, I'm Solly. Now please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
We need a little help with the pledge, so Miss Brittany is going to lead us, and we're going to do a call and repeat here.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and justice for all.
Thank you so much.
Friends, before you leave, I want to tell you how impressed we all are with your bravery, and we are so glad that you were here to start our meeting. And I can already tell you, you're going to be the best part of our meeting. And I have something before you leave. If you want to come line up over here, I have something to give each one of you, and then you can go meet your parents in the hall.
Lego set. You said Lego Next time Lego sets. Yeah, Lego. No, so. Yes, you.
You did a great job. I think you were right in that one. Now there's nobody there. So you're
What
not
is
there.
that?
That's where Miss Stone was sitting. But now she's over there, so there's nobody in the picture. So this, I think, is where you were. This was where.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
That's the best presidential moment ever. Oh my gosh.
I believe next we have some student recognition. Dr. Kremascoli?
We do. Thank you so much. We have some outstanding students from WJHS who are to be recognized this evening, and we will share their certificates back to them at their schools, but I did want to read off their first names. We have gold medalists with summa cum laude awards in the National Latin Exam. Our students include Avni, Annabelle, Larry, Charlotte, Owen, Jane, Uma, Hannah, Alice, Evelyn, Lindsay, Sophia, June, and another Evelyn. Congratulations to all of our gold medalists. We also have silver medalists with Maxima Cum Laude awards. Those include Jason, Caitlin, Beckett, Oliver, Charlotte, and Alexander. Congratulations to all of you. We have a magna cum laude award for Kadla. Thank you. And a cum laude award for Ethan. Congratulations to all of our National Latin Exam students. We also this evening would like to celebrate our students who successfully accomplished the Science Olympiad. Congratulations to our WJHS Science Olympiad team who competed at the University of Illinois in the state competition. WJHS finished 17th out of the 41 teams that qualified from across the state, a huge accomplishment. And the team medaled in 3 events that are highlighted. We took 5th in flight by Michelle and Aparna. We took 5th in fast facts by Larry and Albert. We took the third medal in geocaching by Freddie and Madeline. The team also performed notably in bioprocess lab with 8th place by Evelyn and Albert, 7th in disease detectives by Michelle and Aparna, 9th in wheeled vehicles by Andrew and Charlie, and 9th in the green generation by Lexi and Lucas. Congratulations to all of our Science Olympiad students. In addition to these outstanding students from WJHS, we would also like to take a moment to recognize the following students from Highcrest Middle School for their exceptional performance on the recent National Pegasus Mythology exam. Who knew? I mean, these are students going above and beyond. We had 47 students at Highcrest Middle School participate in this rigorous national exam of mythology, and we're very proud to celebrate their hard work and to recognize their tremendous efforts today. A whopping 41 of our Highcrest students earned some kind of distinction on this award. I do have a picture of these students. If I'm able to share my screen, let's see how successful I am at this. Here they are. Look at these brilliant young people here, and I will read their names off as well. We have Daniel and Julia, Joanna and John. They earned perfect gold scores. We also had gold award winners Leela, Evie, Mingyi, Hugh, Kavya, Matthew, James, Julia, Griffin, and Liam. And then in silver and also ribboning, we have Benji, Ava, Elisha, Miles, William, Josie, Katie, Bihan, Henry, and James, as well as Shiv, Devyan, Maddie, Connor, Ronan, Tessa, Benji, Asher, Fina, and Rika. We also had cum laude awards for Maddie, Quinn, Ellie, Cecilia, Ian, and Max, and also outstanding performances by Frank, Olivia, Lucas, Aaron, Andrew, and Matt. Congratulations to all of our Highcrest students for going above and beyond on this national exam. Congratulations.
Thank you. I would like to direct your attention to the beautiful artwork behind me. The display in the boardroom this month is from Harper Elementary School and is a vast variety of artwork highlighting the Dolphin Parade, texture painting, identity logos, color monsters, self-portraits, animated gifts, Scandinavian folk art, watercolor landscapes, Myanmar sand paintings, Las Molas inspired prints, value paintings, and stop motion animation. I would like to remind everyone that this is a public meeting and that all are among neighbors and fellow residents. Appropriate conduct is expected from everyone. We ask that people speak only when called upon, that everyone treat each other kindly and with proper respect, and refrain from distracting behaviors such as loud conversations, cheering, clapping, or booing. For those of you who are here to advocate for choir, please know that choir is not being eliminated. There are no plans to eliminate choir at Highcrest or Wilmette Junior High. Choir will continue to be offered before school at Highcrest and as a creative arts option during the school day at Wilmette Junior High. I seek a motion to approve the minutes of the April 24th, 2023 Board of Education regular, reorganizational, and executive session meetings.
I move to approve the minutes of the April 24th, 2023 Board of Education regular, reorganizational, and executive session meetings.
May I have a second?
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded. Board members, are there any comments, errors, or omissions to the minutes? All those in favor of approving the minutes as submitted, please indicate by saying yay. Yay. The motion carries. This is the first opportunity for the public to address the board. Are there any community members that wish to speak? If so, please come to the podium, state your community of residence, and you have 3 minutes to address the board.
Hi, I'm Valerie Niemeyer Tinkoff. I'm a resident of Wilmette. I have one child in the school system. He went through 1st through 8th grade here at District 39. Can you hear me okay? Okay. And the first thing I want to say is, you know, I know that the board members are volunteers, or at least that's my belief. I've volunteered for things too, not as big as this. And everybody appreciates your time and your efforts. And I'm here to talk to you about my concern that our arts programs are starting to really be dismantled. And I am here in particular to speak about choir. When I heard Ethan Coring had been let go or had resigned or whatever it was that all happened, right? I was absolutely shocked because he taught my son for the last 3 years and he was dedicated. He was talented, you know, he was hardworking. He held everybody together during the pandemic. He put together these complicated online shows and orchestrated ways for the kids to sing outdoors at the town hall or for public venues. I was really impressed with him. And in fact, I was the PTO liaison last year for after school clubs. And his was by far the largest club. He was popular. So I don't know what happened that made him leave. You know, but he was definitely dedicated to this program the entire time we were here, and a pleasure to work with. So I'm here because I'm concerned. Like I was looking online and I found this letter from March 20th saying that 6 service providers have been let go or resigned or whatever. And then you've hired 5 paraprofessionals. You know, I don't think that's the way the money should go. You guys know best what needs to be done and what people are telling you to do. But I hope that you'll try to help keep the joy in the classrooms, you know? I mean, I'm an academic. I've always been into math, into science. It's what I work in as a career. But the joy in life was in choir. And I was in choir my whole life in every school I attended through university. And I raised my son that way. He's here in the audience. Imagine my surprise when he came home this fall, his first year at New Trier, he joined 4 choirs. That was Ethan Coring that did that. Okay, he made him love choir. And he had tried out for one of the choirs that it was like hard to get into. He was in there with all of these upperclassmen and they went to a national quarterfinal that was in Highland Park in March. And it was like being in that movie Pitch Perfect. This is my kid singing in a group like that. He wouldn't have been there if it hadn't been for middle school choir. So I'm urging you to keep a choral director on, you know, to keep somebody who understands.
Thank you, your time is up. I realize that not everybody is used to the 3-minute time limit. We are going to be holding to that. You have a couple options if you run out of time. One is to email the board your comments that you didn't get to. Another is that if you wish to stay till the end of the meeting, there is another opportunity for public comment, which if you've spoken during the first public comment, you get 1 minute at the end of the meeting in addition to the 3 minutes that you already said. Okay,
Thank you for all of your service and thank you for listening.
thank you.
Good evening. My name is Autumn Lum, and I'm a community member here in Wilmette. Because I knew of the time constraint and I wanted to organize my thoughts, I wrote something out, so excuse the formality. But I have a rising 8th grader at WJHS and a rising junior at New Trier. Like many of you, my spring calendar has been full of school concerts to attend. My kids have been heavily involved in the music programs of District 39 in New Trier for several years now, having participated in band, orchestra, and choir. Spring concerts are always a wonderful opportunity to see how much progress has been made over the course of a year. And when a concert involves several grade levels, the progress made from year to year is abundantly clear. None of that would be possible without the dedicated leadership of our well-trained music directors who lead these programs. With the departure of our middle school and junior high choir director, there is now a critical void that needs attention. A professionally trained choir director brings unique expertise and qualifications to any choral program. That role cannot be filled adequately by teachers who are not specifically trained in the theory, techniques, and skills of teaching and conducting youth choirs. The continuity provided by a dedicated choir director across grade levels also promotes consistent musical growth and the stability of a strong and vibrant community of connection and belonging. While the number of choir members in District 39 has been decreasing, factors such as the pandemic and the way in which choir is offered in the schedule must be considered. For example, at WJHS, the choir is set in competition with other electives. That in and of itself makes increasing enrollment numbers and creating a cohesive group challenging. Even so, for a core group of kids, our public school district choirs are their primary way of being part of a team. They deserve a dedicated coach as much as any team or music program in our district does, and certainly as much as our bands and orchestras are entitled to and accustomed. I ask you as esteemed members of the school board to consider the tremendous value and robust educational opportunity that our choir program brings to the lives of our students. We must allocate resources that promote and protect the vital and indispensable role of a dedicated choir director at Highcrest and WJHS. Thank you for your time, attention, and commitment to providing our students with the highest quality of education across all fields, including the kind of excellent choir program a district like ours demands. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon or good evening. So I would like to congratulate the WJHS band and choir leaders and the administration in an incredible close to the year. Both the band and the choir did extremely well on their respective competitions that really showcased their hard work and dedication. And as a chaperone for both band and choir events throughout the year, including the band's trip to Ohio this last weekend, I can personally attest to the value that these programs bring, both in terms of musical growth and personal growth, and especially in terms of working in community. I understand that the choir program is in transition this year and that the current choir leader is not returning and his job position is not posted. I would like to strongly encourage that care and resources be given to this program so it continues and grows. My child, a current 7th grader, has participated since 5th grade and is truly excited to continue choir in 8th grade and in New Trier. Choir, both at Highcrest and WJHS, has been her opportunity to sing and where she looks to build her skills. And like many other students in choir, she does not take private vocal lessons or participate in outside choirs. The Highcrest and WJH choirs also serve to prepare the District 39 students for New Trier choir. As part of this year's activities, the 7th, 8th grade choir went to New Trier to sing and to listen to the high school chorus, and it was incredible. The kids came away excited about going to New Trier and participating in the choir programs. And afterwards, I saw several New Trier students come up to the choir director and express how much their time at choir at Highcrest and WJHS had meant to them. So I ask that you consider to provide the choir program with sufficient resources and attention necessary to continue and grow. I've personally observed how hard these leaders of these programs work with these children, how much extra time they put in, how much experience and expertise is required. And I want to make sure that whoever leads the choir program going forward has the sufficient expertise and credentials and time and resources to be successful. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Would you mind please stating your name? I think we missed that part, sorry.
Gwen Volk.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, good evening. My name is Felipe Jimenez. My daughter is Sandra Jimenez, and she's currently a participant in the choir program. She's a 7th grader at Wilmette Junior High, and I'm here on behalf of her to transmit to you her message. We know all the changes that are happening in the choir program. Therefore, she wanted to express all the things that being in this program have helped her to be. In first place, she said that being in the choir has helped her to talk louder with people and being more confident in front of people and with her own friends. She feels happy, and she has a better sense of belonging, and it also helps her to be calm. The fact that she participates in the choir program has helped her to focus more on her own homework. So it's broader, the impact on her. She also feels happy that she can now sing, not only for herself, but also in front of a lot of people. She says that being in choir helped her to express who she is. And it also has helped her to talk better, and she has improved her grammar or expressed better herself. So these are a few things that she thinks that why keeping choir is important for the school. And another important thing that is happening, my younger daughter is also moving now to Highcrest. And listening to Sandra, how happy and how excited is when she comes after her practice or her performance in choir, makes her feel also happy and excited about belonging to these programs. So therefore, we would like to express our full support of the choir program and ask you to allocate the best resources and continue with this great program for all the students of Wilmette.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Elizabeth Clark. My son is in the 9th grade at New Trier, and we went through Highcrest and WJHS. And I'm here, much like those who were up here before me. I was curious about what was happening with choir. I think there's probably more to the story than we realize as parents and students, and so I wanted to be informed. So I have a feeling there's more than what I know, but I just wanted to speak to how valuable the program was for my son and how much we appreciated it. So I was very grateful to hear choir is continuing, and I'm glad you led with that because that helped me kind of think about what I was going to say. I understand that maybe I missed something. I think part of the confusion as parents, for me anyway, is that I don't see a job listing, and that was concerning. I hope that there's a job search or a posting, or maybe there are internal candidates or something we're not aware of. But we were talking in the car on the way here. My son came with me tonight, and he said, without Mr. Coring, I would never have even been interested in choir. Like, I just wouldn't even have done it. And he did, and it's been incredibly positive. And he's in the Northfield Chorus with Ms. Bernal this year, and he just really appreciates it. And it was kind of a surprise for all of us how much he loves it. So this community in general is so supportive of the arts in school, and it just doesn't feel possible that choir was at risk. So that's why I'm saying there's probably more than what we know. But I just wanted to speak to how incredible Mr. Coring was as a teacher and how valuable that experience was for my particular student, and how incredible Miss Bernal has been, and just the thought that there was something going on where choir was at risk in any way as a community member. I just wanted to come and speak to that. So I think that everyone sort of echoed that same message. So if there's a path for teachers and they're either kept on and tenured or not, I just hope that there's a very thoughtful search with enough resources to find a person who is able to stay, and that there's an incredible person, which we feel like is Mr. Coring. I just want to speak to how incredible he was and how much we value the program, and how wonderful it's been to watch the growth from 5th now through 9th grade, and for the 9th graders for us to see what everyone else is
Sorry,
doing.
your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else who wishes to address the board? Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Don Schwartz. I have 2 kids at WJHS. My one daughter, who's here with me tonight, has been in the chorus since 5th grade. She has loved Mr. Coring for 3 years. Loved it so much that she got her twin involved this year in the chorus. I want to, of course, echo everything that people have said, but I have 2 other additional concerns. One, why wasn't anybody ever told that this was happening? And number 2, why wasn't there some recognition of this great choir fest last week? Absolutely no recognition. Matter of fact, it was, I think, last Wednesday. It was all rumor up until that point with respect to what Mr. Coring's status was, at least from my recollection. Everybody there was talking about it, and no one knew for sure that he was leaving. If the decision was made in March, I think it would have been incumbent upon the board to let everybody know that, and for us to possibly take some action on his behalf to have some kind of a celebration of what he's done and what he's meant for the kids that have participated. And we're very concerned that did not transpire, and he was all extremely exuberant. I don't know how many of you were at the concert last week, but it was a huge turnout. I mean, obviously, there are less kids in 8th grade than there are in 5th grade, but 5th grade couldn't even get them on the stage. There were so many kids participating, and you could see the growth and the maturity and the songs that were guided through Mr. Coring. So that was I wanted to express those 2 extra concerns: why we weren't apprised of this before, and why nothing was done to celebrate his time within the district. That was a major concern that we had. Just because he's dedicated so much and he's meant so much to all of the students.
Thank you.
Are there answers?
So this is a portion for public comment, so it's an opportunity for the audience to address the board, but we don't engage in a question and answer during this portion, or actually any portion. Is there anyone else who wishes to address the board? Okay, we will move on to board reports. We will start with our committees. Facility development, Mrs. Kim.
Thank you. The Facility Development Committee met on May 15th as part of the board's Committee of the Whole meeting. Our administrative team, in partnership with our architect and construction team, provided an overview of the facility projects targeted for completion in 2024. This includes a partial roof replacement at the junior high, along with 6 smaller projects occurring at the junior high, Ramona, and Mackenzie. After a review of these items, the board provided support to the team to begin incurring design costs. This preliminary work will assist the construction team in preparing to be one of the first projects to out to bid this fall. The expectation is that the summer of 2024 will be very busy across the school construction industry, and getting out to bid early is the recommended way to achieve really competitive bidding on the projects. The team also briefly reviewed project updates for the summer 2023 air conditioning projects.
Thank you. All right, school finance, Mr. Cesaretti.
President Stem. School Finance Committee also met on May 15th as part of the board's Committee of the Whole meeting. We reviewed the contract renewal for Baker Tilly, our auditor, with initial projections for renewal indicating that renewal costs would increase at least 50 to 60% for fiscal year 2023, the board directed administration to proceed with a request for proposal for audit services. Unfortunately, no responses were received. The administration then contacted Baker Tilly to see if they could continue to provide audit services. Baker Tilly provided audit fee quotes for 1 or a 3-year renewal contract. In either option, the first year increase is approximately 57%. The 3-year renewal then has 5% increases in year 2 and 3. The board directed the team to proceed with preparing a contract for a 3-year renewal, and that contract is up for approval later on this evening's agenda. Baker Tilly, as we all know, has provided very good service in challenging circumstances over the last 3 years. In addition, a presentation was shared on the fiscal year 2024 draft budget that has been prepared for the board's review. The good news is that the fiscal year 2024 budget projects have the operating funds end with a fund balance of above 40%. The 2024 draft budget is presented again this evening for further review. That's all we have.
Thank you. Let's move on to Strategy Committee. Mrs. Schneider-Fabes.
The Strategy Committee also met on May 15th. The administration provided reports in 2 key areas. The first was WJHS administrative team provided the board an update regarding their progress and plans for improving supports for students and families transitioning from 6th to 7th grade. This goal falls under strategic plan goal 4 and follows the work that was done last year for the same in support of those transitioning from 4th to 5th grade. The team has made a conscious effort to address the needs of the students and families through this important transition, while also making information readily available in a variety of ways so that each student has the opportunity to learn more about and begin connecting to WJHS before the start of school.
Thank you. All right, let's move on to our liaison reports. Community Review Committee, or CRC, back to Mrs. Schneider-Fabes.
Actually, it was
Oh,
me.
you went.
Yeah, I attended
Okay.
the meeting.
Sorry.
okay.
Yes, Ms. Pavlis.
Well, thank you. Yes, I attended the CRC meeting on May 9th. The CRC reviewed the final report of the Culture of Connectedness and Emphatic and Inclusive Community for Neurodivergent Students and voted to approve the final report. And we will be hearing from them later tonight.
Okay, well, looking forward to that. Ed Foundation, Mrs. Paling.
So the Educational Foundation met on May 10th, and they had a few exciting tasks. They voted on and welcomed new members for their slate of trustees. And they voted to fund a special gift to all 4 elementary schools for a permanent book walk. If you all have seen the book walks that have been around Batman Park, I think, and then some schools have temporarily had them for COVID, there will be a permanent structure at each elementary school, and then the schools will fill those with book walks from here on out. So I think that's a beautiful contribution. They also reviewed some of their recent very successful events, including movie night in downtown Wilmette, a STEM in the Real World assembly for 7th and 8th graders, and their Cheers and Beers events. Very, very busy supporting our schools. And they also celebrated those board members who are leaving this week.
Thank you. Mrs. Kim and Mrs. Schneider-Fabes, anything going on with the Wilmette Village Intergovernmental Cooperation Working Group?
No, but we will be having a meeting the first week of June. So we're looking forward to that.
Okay, thank you. Illinois Association of School Boards, Mrs. Pavlis.
Yes, the update for that is that we're considering making a resolution, a committee proposal related to school safety and security on election days. And I think that Dr. Cremasoli and Mr. DeMonte are going to, I think, flush that out a little bit for us.
with the board support, and kudos to Tony for raising this idea. I think it's a great one. We will continue to work on that and submit it hopefully soon. It's actually pretty near finished. It's been shared with the board. We're happy to take any feedback from the board over this week, if not immediately. And then if tonight we can kind of get a nod toward submitting that on the board's behalf, we'll work with Allison and Bonnie to make sure it gets submitted. What does everyone think?
I personally think it's a great idea, so.
I can't overstate my excitement about this. I mean, I'm not kidding. I'm really excited about this. Yeah.
This is one that impacts your schools directly. There's a lot of times where you see resolutions that may not reach us as closely, but in this case, it's been various schools, but this year in particular, elections were held at Central and Highcrest, and we were lucky enough to move it out of the junior high in recent years and over here, but it's time, and your efforts to raise awareness to this issue for what we believe is a local decision is very much appreciated. So Dr. Kremascoli and I, among a variety of other people, including our principals, specifically of a couple of buildings there that I mentioned, do appreciate your work on this resolution. So thank you for taking it on.
Moving on to legislative update, Mrs. Pathless.
Me again? Okay. So the legislative update, I'm learning all kinds of things on the legislative front. The General Assembly is still in session. They did not introduce or pass a fiscal year 2024 budget yet before leaving Springfield last week. However, they're back in session and they have until May 31st to do so. As far as education-specific updates, there's not much new going on, but there are a couple of things in committee that at least I thought were somewhat interesting. The first one is SB 1446. It's dress policy at graduation. So this bill would ensure that students can celebrate their cultural, ethnic, and religious faith at graduation. The bill arose from a situation in which a student was not allowed to wear an eagle feather in his graduation hat to celebrate his Native American heritage at his high school graduation. So that's still in committee. The second and last one is HB 3643, which is religious dietary food options. So this is a bill that would require public schools to provide religious dietary food options as part of their lunch program, including but not limited to halal and kosher. This requirement is subject to appropriation, and schools would only be responsible for the cost of type A lunch. And if they don't have the facilities or the staff to do so, they're allowed not to do it, I guess. So that is also still in committee, but those were the two that I thought were interesting. Otherwise, not much more to report.
Thank you. Moving on to information items, Dr. Kremascoli.
Yes, we have quite a bit to update the board on and share this evening. First of all, the board has received written communication from, let me pull this up in another way because I want to make sure, excuse me, that I'm not missing anyone. As of today, though there may have been some additionals that came in over the weekend, the board received written communication from Anna Ossenmacher regarding safe gun storage practices and school building safety, from Corey Lester regarding Keep 39 fee structures, from Rob and Rebecca Toten regarding ongoing student issues, and from the following parents regarding the HMS and WJHS Choir and Fine Arts Program. Those included Polly and Kira McClellan, Ariel Knopf, Alicia Ramatier, Diana Williams, Tanya Jung, Julie Hanahan, Shidal Shah, Kimberly Newman, Stephanie Crocker, and Amanda Alt. Are there any other communications any board member wishes to report? Thank you for that. We have a number of administrative announcements from myself and our staff. First of all, end of year preparations. We are in that time of year where we are simultaneously wrapping up the current school year with a strong finish academically and socially and emotionally, while also vigorously planning for and preparing for the start of the new school year. Our school teams are completing their fall academic assessments and making sure that their students continue to have rigorous and meaningful instruction, while also taking time to celebrate their connections and accomplishments from the school year. We heard about some of those already this evening. Meanwhile, we're also working on staffing and hiring. We'll hear a little bit more about that later on tonight's agenda. As the board has heard, we are also busy planning for summer construction projects and new curriculum work. So basically, there's a lot going on, and we have many more celebrations coming up. I wanted to highlight just a few. First of all, the WJHS graduation will be held on June 8th. Those ceremonies will be held on the evening of June 8th at New Trier High School. Our ceremonies are scheduled to be held indoors this year, so we know it's going to be a beautiful day outside for those events. And we'd like to thank our many parent volunteers, staff, and administrators who have all been working hard to plan and support a really wonderful celebration of our 8th grade students and their time here in the Wilmette Public Schools. In addition, our 8th graders are preparing for the end of year visit to Great America, which is always a fun tradition. Our High Crest Outdoor Concert is on May 26th. We have many music concerts being held this month, as we heard a little bit about this evening, including many 4th grade concerts, High Crest and WJHS band, orchestra, and choir, our High Five Choir, and more. What has become an annual tradition, our High Crest team invites all to come out to enjoy the High Crest Outdoor Concert on May 26th. It promises to be another really wonderful showcase of music and the hard work of our students and our staff. Meanwhile, our elementary schools are celebrating their 4th graders. Our elementary schools have been busy preparing to celebrate and say their final farewells to our 4th grade students before they're promoted to 5th grade at High Crest. Each school and PTA is planning activities to help commemorate this important milestone within our students' lives and for their families as well. We've learned quite a bit over recent years in our study of the 4th to 5th grade transition that really is a significant moment for so many of our families. Our neighborhood elementary schools serve as those cornerstones of our communities and on many important familial connections and friendships that last a lifetime. So again, thank you to our many teachers, administrators, and volunteer parents who are helping to coordinate those great events. You might have also recently heard, and I know we shared with the board a little bit about our new solar panels that have been installed at each school. I wanted to make a brief mention of this because each school has hosted or is in the process of about to host their Solar-brations at our elementary schools. And I've had the honor of visiting some of these celebrations, and oh my goodness, students and staff and parents so proud of the work that the students did to write and submit for a grant to allow for the solar panels to be installed at each of our schools. So at each of our schools, we now have a 1 kilowatt solar array that has been installed. The systems also include an online dashboard, which is actually really cool, that can be used to instruct students about science, math, technology, and sustainability, which we know are all areas of emphasis within D39. With the installation of these solar panels, students will get to see firsthand how sunlight is converted into electricity while also supporting our many green team efforts and our sustainability efforts throughout the district. So I would like to thank again our students and staff who contributed to writing the grants, as well as Mr. DeMonte, who really put in a lot of work in helping to support their efforts. So thank you so much for that. We also would like to thank the Illinois Clean Energy Community Foundation and Cook County Solar Schools grant programs for their generous financial support for these projects. So thank you to everyone involved in that. We do have a report coming up regarding 2023-2024 staffing and enrollment. Dr. Glowacki will give that report. So later in this evening, you'll hear an update about that. We did review the report at the Committee of the Whole. And as a reminder, we really want to emphasize to our parents that annual registration for students is really important. Staffing is based on student enrollment, registration, student needs, and course selection as well. So I'll just make a brief mention that this year we have successfully hired several new teachers into our district. I typically have the honor of doing the final interview, and wow, have we hired some really outstanding new teachers, experienced teachers who want to join us here in Wilmette. It's been quite an impressive group so far, and we know our work is not done. We have several positions posted currently and a few more positions that we do expect to post as schedules and assignments for the upcoming school year get finalized. Again, this is always a really exceptionally busy time of year as we review our student needs, examine staffing patterns and assignments that are designed to meet those needs. So we recognize that this can be stressful, as we heard a little bit tonight, as we work with our teachers and especially our administrators, our principals who are in the back of the room working diligently as they're attending this meeting as well. We work really hard to hire the very best candidates for each position, and we thank everyone, especially our building principals and assistant principals and staffing teams, for their extra work in facilitating those postings and the filling of these important positions. Recruiting, interviewing, hiring, it all takes a lot of time. So we ask everyone to please understand that that does take some time. Tonight, the board will approve several new teachers as part of the personnel report, as well as a few staff, I believe. There are more to come that will be hired in June, and as is always the case, we continue to interview and fill positions throughout the summer as well. So again, we thank everyone for their patience and support as we work through that. I did want to make a special note this evening because you will see on the personnel report that we have a new assistant principal for Harper Elementary School who is recommended to the board for approval. Melissa Feinberg will be joining Harper School at the start of the next school year. In addition to, she was hired after, again, an extensive search and interview process. We had many, many people coming in to participate in these teams, and we're really excited about her candidacy. She comes to us with elementary classroom experience. She served as an instructional coach for 2 years, and then she was also an assistant principal at the Chicago International Charter School in Irving Park campus for 5 years, where she led a variety of teams at that school. The interview teams were really impressed by the value Melissa places on school culture, building relationships, and her work to develop home-to-school partnerships. She has a proven track record of success in these areas. We are really excited for her candidacy and look forward to introducing her to the board at a future date. She wasn't able to be here tonight. This all happened very quickly, but congratulations to Melissa. We're glad to have you joining our team. Another celebration that's coming up, our reflection celebration. Thank you to the board who co-hosts this with our union leadership. The reflection celebration of our employees recognizes those who have reached significant milestones in their career, as well as our distinguished retirees. And so this year, our distinguished retirees include Debbie Beitzel, Laura Polkoff, and Patty Ballard from Harper, Kate Johnston-Legg from Mackenzie, Tina Honore, Jill Pinkerton, and Leslie Williams from Ramona. WJHS, our retirees include Michelle DeSaint Aubin and Tara Velasic. And here at the MEC, Kathy Hughes is set to retire as well. We celebrate all of those outstanding retirees for their service to our district. Just a couple other mentions. Our Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging Task Force has been working hard this school year. They've met 3 times. That team is comprised of administrators, teachers, staff, parents. We also have students there on that team. And the focus of the team's work this year has been on employee recruitment, hiring, retention, and support. The team has spent, I should have said there's a board member on that team as well. Thank you. The team has spent time reviewing and discussing opportunities for focused efforts within these areas to support our employees of color, including our current and prospective employees. The group will continue this work next year and will make recommendations to the administration for action steps. So I want to say thank you to everyone who's been working on that important team. We heard about the audit services contract renewal that was reviewed at Committee of the Whole and will be recommended for action approval later on this evening's agenda under the consent agenda. And then strategic plan updates. I just wanted to make a mention that as we look toward the end of the school year, we're evaluating and analyzing the progress that we have made this school year relative to our strategic plan and the identified action steps. We have appreciated many having many opportunities to review progress and provide updates to the board through our new committee of the whole structure. And we've also really appreciated the support of our district strategic advisory team, also known as DSAT. DSAT is scheduled to meet once more on June 1st prior to the presentation of the final summative report that will be provided to the board at the June board meeting. That was a lot of information. I'm happy to answer any questions before I move on to FOIA, if there are any.
What time is the outdoor concert at High Crest? Do you know?
Let me get that and send it to you, although I think Kelly Jackson is here. She probably knows off the top of her head. It's on, I think, Kelly.
It's on. It's at 1:45 on Friday, and then there's a rain date. Hopefully it's not going to rain though. So it looks sunny. So the rain date is next Wednesday, I believe. So thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions? Okay. Under Freedom of Information Act, we have received and processed 2 FOIA requests, one from Janie Jordan of Data Research Partners, requesting District 39 employees' name, title, positions, email addresses, and department location, and Ben Yarbrough requested superintendent's contracts from 2016 to present, including extensions, renewals, amendments, and riders. And we can move on to annual business. We have a great group here. Are you ready for me to do an introduction? Okay. Under the Community Review Committee report presentation, I'm really pleased to be able to introduce our team. We are very fortunate to have representatives here from the District 39 Community Review Committee, which is also known as CRC. They're here with us this evening to present their report from this year's study and work. It's titled A Culture of Connectedness and Empathic and Inclusive Community for Our Neurodivergent Students. This report is a culmination of many, many, many hours of collaborative work, research, and study on this topic. Our CRC brings together 25 parents, community members, teachers, administrators, and other support staff who contributed to this important work this year to study the chosen topic and provide the board with a report and recommendations. In past years, their work has led to significant and meaningful sustained changes in the work we do here in District 39, and so we're so appreciative for their continued efforts and support. This evening, I am pleased to introduce Amy Wexler-Ross, President of CRC, and Ariel Ruby, our Vice President of CRC. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you so much, Dr. Krumskoli. Oh, a little farther out. While she's getting that set up, we'll just introduce ourselves quickly. So my name is Amy Wexler-Ross, and I am the president of the CRC this year. I am a parent of 2 Harper students and 1 soon-to-be Harper student. I'm also professionally a licensed clinical social worker and owner of Playworks Therapy, which is an interdisciplinary pediatric therapy practice located in Roscoe Village.
I'm Ariel Ruby. I'm also a parent to 2 Harper students, 1 in kindergarten and 1 in 2nd grade as well. I am a school psychologist that currently teaches kindergarten enrichment and preschool enrichment at Trinity. Previously, I've also taught 4th and 5th grade and served for 5 years as a school psychologist through the LaGrange Area Department of Special Education in District 103.
All right. So we just want to start by thanking Dr. Krumskoli and Katie Lee for their support throughout this process, as well as to all of the Board of Education members for reading our 51-page report. So thank you. And then just a special thank you to our committee members on the CRC who worked especially hard this year. It was a very intensive research process, and we are just so thankful for the effort that they put in. And then to our schools for distributing surveys to teachers and all of the families that participated and responded to it. All right, so as you know, we, the CRC, we serve in an advisory capacity to the Board of Education, and we are so excited to present this year on the topic of neurodiversity. And we are going to provide a brief bit of foundational information to just help you hear out loud a little bit about what you read about. I'm going to talk a little bit about the research that we did for the surveys that were filled out by our parents and teachers and staff on their perceptions and understanding of neurodiversity. And we will talk a little bit about what other local school districts are doing, talk a little bit about the national trends currently that we are seeing in supporting inclusivity for our neurodivergent students. And lastly, we are going to offer some recommendations to the board on this topic. So as is traditional for the CRC, we started and we split up into 4 different groups. Each group researched the different areas that I just mentioned. And so we are going to start and just talk, sorry, I just skipped one there. We're just going to start by talking a little bit about some foundational conceptual knowledge, which is really, really critical in helping to understand what we are recommending to the board. So the term neurodiversity, it refers to the diversity of human minds. You can kind of think of it like biodiversity, which refers to the factual existence of diversity in our biological ecosystem. And neurodiversity talks about the natural variation in brain development that exists across humankind. The term came out in 1998 by Judy Singer, an Australian sociologist. And around that time, there was a lot of advocacy efforts happening for autistic individuals. And sort of from that came the neurodiversity movement, which is the social justice movement that seeks equality and full societal inclusion for our neurodivergent individuals. The neurodiversity paradigm is the sort of the whole set of beliefs that that we are talking about here, and really emphasizes specifically that it's very natural and acceptable for people to have variation in brain development. The paradigm asserts that there is no one right way of thinking, and that differences are not viewed as deficits. That's the key here. Differences are not viewed as deficits. And that variation in human development is beneficial to humankind. To use proper terminology, we would call an individual neurodivergent, not neurodiverse. We would call them a neurodivergent individual. So the term neurodivergent refers to an individual whose brain functions in a way that deviates from the normal, quote unquote, standards. The entire neurodiversity paradigm and the neurodiversity movement and the concept in general utilizes a strengths-based approach. I'm sure that is a familiar approach for many of you, but for those who it may not be familiar, it focuses on ability rather than disability. And it also honors the fact that every human has the potential to think and to learn and to grow. Neurotypical, that is the term that we would use to talk about our counterpart to a neurodivergent individual. So those are individuals whose brains function within the range of what is considered, again, quote unquote, normal. It's not a very affirming word to use, normal, so it's why I keep quote unquoting it. The umbrella of neurodiversity is very large. It encompasses any disorder, diagnosis, condition, difference at all that involves brain functioning, that functions differently. In prior schools of thought, it was inaccurately used as a synonym for autism, but it encompasses so much more than autism. Things like anxiety disorders, obsessive compulsive disorder, PTSD, bipolar disorder, eating disorders, all the wide range of neurodevelopmental disorders like autism and ADHD, things like dyslexia, giftedness is also considered a form of neurodivergence. We did include in our report a much more comprehensive list that you can refer to in the appendices. And now I'm going to chat a little bit about the core beliefs and positions of neurodiversity affirming practices. And apologize 1 second while I just skip over a few pages. All right. So the first core belief that I'm going to talk a little bit about is presuming competence. And it's again that belief that everybody has the ability to think, to learn, and grow, and having that assumption in your mind at all times. Self-determination is the idea that people can make their own choices, they can set goals, and they can take action to meet those goals. Self-advocacy refers to the ability of an individual person to represent their own needs and accommodations instead of other people making those decisions for them. And body autonomy is an individual's right to make their own decisions about their body. Consent is very big in neurodiversity affirming practices, very important. Trauma-informed is there's lots of different things that are trauma-informed, like different educational practices, different types of therapy approaches, but in general, being trauma-informed means that you have a recognition and understanding of the very pervasive and complex nature of trauma and the subsequent impact it has on an individual's life. Most people, when they think of trauma, they're thinking of what mental health clinicians will call big T trauma. So that might be a very impactful incident that happens in somebody's life. But what's really, really important here is something that we might call little T trauma, which are those repeated daily occurrences that happen to a person in their everyday life that really build up and are very much considered trauma and very harmful for for students who may experience that. Personal agency is the understanding, capacity, and self-efficacy around the sense of influence over one's own actions and behaviors. And valuing lived experience is a recognition and understanding that everyone has an individual perspective and everyone comes to, in this case, school, with the life experiences that they have experienced. And then finally, our final core belief is the idea of anti-ableism. This is the concept of actively working to dismantle ableist beliefs. An ableist belief would be prejudice and or discrimination against mentally or physically disabled individuals. And so anti-ableism works to dismantle that, and while also promoting equity and inclusion and respect for disabled individuals. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to talk a little bit about is identifying language. There are two different types of identifying language. There is identity-first language and person-first language. Many, many years ago, I can't tell you when, but person-first language was written in as the go-to way to talk about an individual. So in person-first language, it places the person before the disability or the condition, and it prioritizes that individual's fullness and their individuality. Identity-first language, on the other hand, places the disability and or condition before the person. So this would be like autistic child versus person-first language would be child with autism. And identity-first language promotes autonomy and self-determination in choosing how you want to identify. Preferences vary widely, but amongst many neurodivergent communities, identity-first language is much preferred. And the most important part is to respect an individual's preference. So talking with students and talking about what their preferences are and how they would like to self-identify. We have, for this report, we have chosen, as you may have noticed, identity-first language to respect each individual's right and autonomy in choosing how they want to identify. And heavily encourage everyone to think about that idea of identity first versus person first. All right, so, sorry, just gonna move that down a bit. Okay, so we're gonna chat a little bit about some of the unique strengths and needs of neurodivergent individuals. Neurodivergent individuals may experience differences in things like information processing and executive functioning skills. And if you remember, differences are not viewed as deficits. So it is just a different way that their brain works. Somebody might be a visual learner instead of an auditory learner. Somebody might be a kinesthetic learner or a combination of both, meaning that they might need information presented to them in different ways. Neurodivergent individuals, as well as all humans in general, experience sensory processing differences. And this may impact their ability to focus and attend to everyday classroom instruction or to attend to peer interaction. Neurodivergent individuals may experience differences in their communication styles. So someone may be maybe someone who communicates with an AAC device, or they may use gestures or sign language, or a combination of all of the above. Neurodiversity affirming practices promotes total communication, so there's no one right way to communicate. Everybody can communicate a little bit differently. And neurodivergent individuals may also experience differences in their social communication. This may mean they might have challenges reading social cues, understanding when it's their turn to speak. They also might have a different way of interacting with their peers. There's lots of great information out there on the difference between info dumping and chatting. An info dumper might just come at a teacher and talk for a really long time about one topic versus a chatter who might like to talk about lots of different topics. All of these neurological differences combined together can have a really, really large impact on everyday life for a neurodivergent individual. A couple other terms we want to talk about. The double empathy problem is there's a lot of great research on there further describing it. And it's the theory that suggests that social and communication differences between neurotypical and neurodivergent individuals are not solely due to their differences in their brain functioning, but are instead due to the reciprocal lack of understanding and bidirectional differences in their communication styles. Research demonstrates that neurodivergent individuals are really successful in communicating with other neurodivergent individuals, and that breakdown often comes when a neurodivergent individual is speaking with a neurotypical individual. And then the last one is masking and camouflaging, and this is one that is probably most prevalent but very underdetected in a school setting. This is a term used to describe the process of a neurodivergent individual hiding their actions or characteristics by suppressing their individual needs in a social situation. So suppressing their sensory needs, suppressing their, using an alternative communication style, which then probably overtaxes their executive functioning skills, for example. And masking and camouflaging can lead to chronic stress and make it very, very challenging for some students to actively and successfully access the curriculum at school. General harmful educational practices, we're just speaking in generality here, but some common harmful educational practices would be something like assuming neurodiversity or neurodivergence is tied to IQ. They are completely separate. One is measuring your intellect, and one is talking about how your brain functions. Assuming neurodiversity is tied to laziness, this is a really big misconception of teachers that often happens when somebody is not doing work or not participating in class. It's often assumed to be behavioral rather than due to a difference in development. Setting lower expectations for neurodivergent students, this will often lead to missed opportunities around what they have access to. And then the implementation of behavior management systems that place expectations on students to perform neurotypical behaviors and suppress their neurodivergent behaviors. And then lastly, assuming high-frequency extrinsic rewards will lead to intrinsic motivation. This one is really big, and I really encourage you to read further on this topic. It's sort of the common idea that If somebody won't do something, I can motivate them, and it will build their intrinsic motivation, but the long-term research actually suggests it does not build their long-term motivation at all. Some general examples of some supportive educational practices are things like universal design for learning, sensory-friendly environments, that's having sensory supports accessible for everyone, for all students. Having clear expectations and routines to help minimize anxiety, using things like visual aids, multisensory instruction, teaching strategies to support self-advocacy is really, really important. Teaching a student how to advocate for themselves is so empowering for that student in helping them get through their day at school. Prioritizing and respecting relationships, so specifically helping teachers understand how to build relationships with neurodivergent students in addition to their neurotypical students. Encouraging affirming discussion of all types of differences, including neurodiversity, and providing supportive communities for parents of neurodivergent learners as well. Lastly, we just want to shed a little bit of light on, of course, for all of the proponents of the neurodiversity movement, the neurodiversity paradigm, there are some critics as well. And what the criticisms of the movement really help us understand is that we want to encourage District 39 to be really mindful to ensure that they hear from all of the whole spectrum of neurodiversity and neurodivergent learners to ensure all voices are heard. A big critique is that there's underrepresentation of the full spectrum of neurodivergence within the movement, and individuals with very high support needs are less represented. For this, we encourage the district to have very open two-way communication with families, especially those families, most especially those families whose children may have a much more limited ability to self-advocate for themselves.
Switching on. And my brain works a little differently, so I have some highlighted notes for myself, and I just want to show you that different people can present in different ways, and sometimes they need different strategies in order to help their own brains and be supportive. A wonderful thing that we could do with the kids in the district is really try to teach them on understanding their own brains so that they're able to further understand what strategies can work for them. All right, so in order to understand the perceptions of community members about neurodiversity and neurodivergent students, surveys were completed by families, teachers, and staff to find out any understanding, recognition, and beliefs, along with any gaps or misconceptions that existed. Beginning with the parent survey, the parent survey received 426 responses that were relatively evenly split amongst all D39 schools. 90.4% of parents self-reported an understanding of the concept of neurodiversity as defined in the question. 39.2% of parents believe their child to be neurodivergent, while 14.6% were unsure, and 84.5% of parents recognize the presence of neurodivergent learners at their children's school. It's important to note that write-in feedback provided by parents revealed a disconnect between perceived and authentic understanding of neurodiversity and neurodivergent learners. It became clear that some respondents primarily associated neurodivergent students with challenging behavior in the classroom, rather than really recognizing that neurodiversity includes students who require different learning approaches, but may not necessarily disrupt the classroom environment. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Additionally, parents were asked about their perceptions around creating an inclusive culture for neurodivergent students. 76.5% of parents agreed or strongly agreed that creating an inclusive culture for neurodivergent learners in the general education classroom supports academic success in pre-K through 8 students. When it comes to the emphasis placed by District 39 on supporting an inclusive culture, 62.4% of parents believe that the district strikes the right balance. However, it's worth noting that 29.3% of parents express the view that there is either too little or far too little emphasis placed on this important topic. Parents were, Parents were also asked about their knowledge of strategies to foster an inclusive learning environment. Only 35.9% of responding parents indicated that they understood strategies their child's teachers used. Additionally, 77% of parents expressed their interest in learning strategies to teach their child in order to support an inclusive environment at school. Parents were given the option to provide feedback at the end of the survey. Several misconceptions were identified regarding neurodivergent students when reading through these responses. First of all, there's a misconception that all neurodivergent students misbehave and are disruptive in the classroom, have violent outbursts, and are harmful to neurotypical students in the general education classroom. There's also a misconception that all neurodivergent students slow down the rest of the class, illustrating a lack of understanding of the concept of neurodiversity. Additionally, many parents misconstrued the notion of neurodiversity by assuming that gifted students are not considered neurodivergent. It is crucial to recognize that neurodiversity encompasses a broad range of neurodevelopmental differences, including giftedness. When reading through parent comments from the survey, several themes emerged that shed light on their perspectives. Parents expressed an interest in learning more about neurodiversity. They emphasized their role in promoting inclusivity and the need for further parent education. They highlighted inconsistent teacher knowledge around supporting neurodivergent students and shared concerns about the need for greater consistency and awareness among teachers. Parents also stressed the importance of educating both teachers and students on how to interact with neurodivergent students in an empathetic and understanding manner. Finally, parents highlighted the need for additional training and support staff to address the specific needs of neurodivergent students whose behavior impacts others in the classroom. Specifically, they expressed concern for students who may witness behavioral issues and stressed the importance of providing support for them. Teachers and staff were given a similar survey as well to find out their perceptions. 91.3% of respondents indicated they understand the concept of neurodiversity, again as defined by the question, and 97.1% of respondents recognize the presence of neurodivergent learners in their classroom. Again, similar to the parent survey, we noticed the write-in responses revealed a disconnect between that perceived and authentic understanding of neurodiversity. Many teachers seem to be confusing their understanding of social emotional learning with neurodiversity, indicating the need for further clarity in education. Teachers were also asked about their perceptions around creating an inclusive, it's switching slower on here than here, so that's why I get confused. I apologize for that. Teacher and staff were also given the, where are we at? It's not going. Yeah, sorry. Teachers were also asked about their perceptions around creating an inclusive culture for neurodivergent students. 92.3% of teachers agreed or strongly agreed that creating an inclusive culture for learners in the general education classroom supports academics. When asked about the emphasis placed by District 39 on supporting an inclusive culture for neurodivergent learners, the responses varied. 42.7% of teachers believed the right amount of emphasis was placed, while 38.8% expressed that there was too little or far too little emphasis. Teacher and staff respondents were given the option to provide additional feedback at the end of the survey. The write-in responses from teachers and staff highlighted important themes. There was a consensus that more resources and training are needed to create a more inclusive classroom environment. Additionally, teachers emphasized the need for a shared language around neurodiversity. This is not the right slide. Additionally, teachers emphasized the need for shared language around neurodiversity. Increasing the number of adults present and implementing a broader range of strategies to promote inclusivity were identified as areas for improvement in supporting neurodivergent students in the classroom. Finally, some teachers and staff voiced concerns about incorporating neurodiversity material in the midst of these post-pandemic challenges with all the new initiatives of implementing new curricula, integrating SEL, and managing a variety of standardized assessments. Moving on to local trends and taking a look at local comparative school districts. Group 3 analyzed how comparable neighboring school districts understand neurodiversity and support neurodivergent students. A review of the websites revealed a lack of substantial information about neurodiversity or neurodiversity affirming supports. A survey was conducted among administrators from 11 surrounding school districts and received 9 responses. All respondents reported being familiar with the concept of neurodiversity. However, again, write-in responses indicated that the strategies and initiatives mentioned were more aligned with general education, special education, or SEL standards rather than specifically targeting neurodivergent individuals. Similar to the perceptions of the families, teachers and staff in D39, we see a disconnect between this perceived and authentic understanding of neurodiversity and neurodivergent learners among respondents in our district. Moving on to national trends, group focused their research on national trends and best practices for creating supportive and inclusive communities for neurodivergent students. The concept of inclusion in education involves the adoption of policies, values, and practices that promote equal learning opportunities for all students. The research identified 3 key components of inclusion. 1, students should be included in mainstream classrooms as much as possible. 2, it's important to ensure that every student not only gets a chance to participate, but also feels a sense of respect within the community. And finally, it's important to actively identify and confront any barriers that may hinder the inclusion of neurodivergent students. By focusing on these components, schools can create truly inclusive spaces for neurodivergent students. Building from the idea of inclusion, we further looked at how this inclusivity can be cultivated. Research shows the importance of educating students about neurodiversity. Teaching neurotypical students about their neurodivergent peers can create a more inclusive and understanding environment. Strategies include incorporating literature written by neurodivergent authors, creating displays or holding events centered around neurodiversity, or participating in initiatives like Neurodiversity Celebration Week, which has been shown to foster a greater sense of inclusivity and appreciation for neurodiversity. Teachers are also very key in creating these inclusive environments, and there are practical strategies that can help them succeed. These include actively listening to students, understanding their interests and strengths, and incorporating this into the classroom, into classroom activities. This encourages engagement and socialization. Additionally, building meaningful relationships with neurodivergent students to establish trust and support their specific needs building meaningful relationships with neurodivergent students to establish trust and support their specific needs is important, and taking the time to get to know them individually can support this. Promoting personal agency and avoiding conformity to neurotypical standards, which fosters the growth and development of neurodivergent students, is also an additional way that teachers can use in order to create inclusive environments in the classroom. Additionally, teachers can provide a variety of sensory and class-wise supports in order to support their students. In terms of sensory supports, teachers can make accommodations to address individual sensory needs. For class-wide supports, they can implement supports that benefit all learners that can and can promote inclusivity. Examples can include predictability in classroom organization or sensory choices for all students. Additionally, diverse teaching diverse teaching methodologies can also help to accommodate different learning styles. By implementing these strategies, teachers can create an environment that supports the diverse sensory and learning needs of all students, fostering inclusivity and promoting optimal learning outcomes. As part of the entire report, you can find all of our summaries and conclusions that you can go and read. Essentially, though, that when we took a look at this, we found that by implementing these recommendations, we can really create a culture of connectedness that values awareness, understanding, empathy, inclusivity, acceptance, and appreciation that will significantly benefit both neurodivergent and neurotypical students and their families. This will further support the mental health, social, emotional well-being, sense of belonging, and ultimately academic success.
All right, in the home stretch, so thank you. Just one key to point out, one of the key words that Ariel did not say is tolerance, because we're not going for tolerance here. We're going for understanding and acceptance and appreciation, and that is very different than tolerance. And I just want to point that out. Lastly, we're just going to go through a brief summary of our strategic recommendations. We grouped them into 3 categories to just make it a little bit easier for you guys. So we broke them into our first category, social emotional. And the overarching theme for this one is to research and implement social emotional learning practices, curriculums, and frameworks that are supportive of the social emotional development and well-being of our neurodivergent students. So this may look quite a bit different than the current implementation of SEL within the district, just to help account for individual differences in learning styles. The second area that we're going to go through is on fostering connection. So that's on providing education and opportunities for connection and understanding between neurodivergent and neurotypical students. That peer-to-peer connection is so important, and especially important in creating that sense of belonging, which District 39 does a really great job in promoting sense of belonging within the student body. And then our last area is parent education. And this will talk a little bit about providing parent education around neurodiversity and ensuring our neurodivergent students are valued and represented in all parent education and parent education events. In general, we put in a little note for District 39, and we're encouraging you to review and ensure that your policies and practices are supportive of all neurodivergent students, taking into consideration the variability of needs and individuals' ability to self-advocate. We're going to go through just some of the sort of summary recommendations, but at the end of our report in the final appendix, there is a lot of very specific recommendations to help sort of get the district's research process going. And the CRC is also happy to answer any questions relating to any of those resources as well. So within our social emotional recommendation, we are encouraging the district to do things like educating the staff on neurodiversity affirming practices, teaching students about neurodiversity, reviewing the policies and procedures, researching and implementing affirming behavioral frameworks. This one is really important, and I would encourage the district to spend some extra time on researching and implementing these very affirming behavioral frameworks. Many behavioral frameworks that are very common for schools to use across the country are very harmful for our neurodivergent learners specifically, because it may penalize them for a difference in their brain development that appears behavioral but is not in fact behavioral. It's due to a difference in their brain development. We encourage the district to research effective sensory and regulatory supports for neurodivergent and neurotypical students. Regulation, so our ability to take in information and decide how we're going to respond and what our reaction is going to be like, is really key, really, really important. A student needs to be regulated in order to access curriculum and make it through their day. And providing these regulatory supports for all students can be really helpful. And then finally, within this category, reviewing paraprofessional and assistant teacher staffing to ensure classroom needs are commensurate with available support. I would say that the most prevalent write-in response that we received is that classrooms where, of course, this was given with the misconception that all neurodivergent students misbehave, but there was a big concern for the appropriate staffing of paraprofessionals within classrooms where students may need additional support. Within fostering connection, we encourage the district to research ways to celebrate the strengths and interests of all students, keeping in mind, again, that differences are not viewed as deficits. We encourage the district to provide opportunities for relationship building between neurotypical and neurodivergent students. And I will say our parents in the write-in responses had some really amazing ideas within this, and we did work to incorporate all of them, or the ones that fit in with our report in the appendix of the full report. We want to increase opportunities for representation and sense of belonging for neurodivergent students through diversification of things like school materials, school enrichment activities, school decorations, like having books in the library that are written by neurodivergent authors, having neurodivergent speakers come in to talk to the students, things of that nature. And then lastly, in this category, we are encouraging you to explore methods to promote self-advocacy and decrease exclusivity amongst students through a variety of communication approaches. Let's say the biggest one we received on parent feedback for that was lunch programming. It's like pairing up students together at lunch. And I think there's a Capri Sun initiative that you can check out. It's a really fun video on lunch tables. And then our last area is on parent education. And within this area, we're encouraging you to research and implement a shared language around neurodiversity that emphasizes affirming practices and promotes inclusivity and support for our learners. And specifically to demonstrate these affirming values across all school communications, including things like the weekly emails home, or our website. Our Harper just sent out an email for bike safety, and in the email update did a really nice job of acknowledging the differences in skills and abilities of second grade students who would be bringing their bikes to school, and that not everyone may know how to ride a bike, which was really nice to see. We encourage you to increase representation of neurodivergent students in the parent education series specifically, and to partner with external organizations to further collaborate and support parent understandings, things like FAN. And then explore parent interest for alternative formats. We did receive a handful of write-in responses that suggested that a smaller group setting, a more intimate setting, would be much more manageable for parents with neurodivergent learners than large group settings. And then lastly, within this area, consider increasing partnership and collaboration with Past 39. I think I checked in with the current president of Past 39. There's only 150 families in the district that are currently a part of it, but so many more students than just those 150 families. So it'd be great to have encourage more involvement in it. So finally, our year-long study has led us to share all of these recommendations with you. And we really want to emphasize the importance of creating an environment that values the unique strengths and differentiated needs of all of our students. And again, promote empathy, understanding, acceptance, awareness, appreciation. Overall, we found that implementing all of these different supports have great benefits for both our neurotypical and our neurodivergent learners. And that it is the most essential part is to consider the very specific needs of our neurodivergent students in terms of social emotional learning practices, ensuring that approaches are tailored to their very specific diverse learning styles. And then, oops, just want to move this so I can see my final thing. Man, Zoom, 3 years later. All right, I'm just gonna look here. Overall, oh, I'm sorry, I'm just going to flip to my page. Just really quick. All right. So finally, we just want to encourage you that by implementing these recommendations, we can support well-being, we can support sense of belonging, and we can support academic success for our students in District 39. Just going to say a really brief really one just brief slide here on our audit process. Typically, the CRC would audit on a 3-year cycle past reports. For this year, we decided not to audit a report, and instead we began creating a CRC procedure manual for all future CRCs to have a very detailed guide that can answer many of their questions. We got about halfway through. We also started suggesting some proposed changes to the bylaws. We will be taking that on next year. I'll be serving as past president, and we'll be working really hard to complete that manual and help propose some suggested changes to the bylaws. And that concludes our presentation. So we would love to hear if you have any questions or comments, and would love to answer them for you.
It's awesome. Incredible work, truly.
Board members, any questions or comments?
Way out of my depth on all of this, thank you. But it was very impressive. I learned a lot. From your report. It's really great report, very thorough. There's a lot here. So I think we'll hopefully feel the same and have more substantive comments than I do. Thank you.
And if you do have the PDF version, all of the hyperlinks are working hyperlinks, so you can use those as well to make it a little bit easier.
It's really excellent.
Thank you.
It's new vocabulary for me.
Yeah.
For a lot of people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mrs. Schneider-Fabes?
Thank you. That was great. I know how much work goes into that. Clearly your heart and soul was in there. So if you had to say in the 3 buckets, right, what would be the most important recommendation in each of the 3 buckets?
Yes, that is a really great question. I think that the most important overall amongst all 3 of the buckets, if we were going to put them together, is that it is so important to help our students and help our parents and help our teachers be able to have open discussions about differences. So I know I said this last year when you asked me a very similar question, but creating that shared vocabulary so that people can respectfully have conversations with each other that open up the door for understanding. And so when students see other students learning differently, they know how to talk about that instead of just having thoughts about it that they might then talk about later in a way that might not feel affirming to those students. So in really overall, the goal here is to have these open discussions, make connections with students, and have affirming language that our students and teachers and parents can use within those discussions.
And I would just add in one other piece, and that would be to ensure any kind of messaging or letters out from the district to make sure to just think about your neurodivergent or population of students that may have different abilities, because it's not just the kids who have the different abilities. It's the parents who also worry about their children who have the different abilities that might not be able to meet those typical standards or neurotypical standards.
I just want to follow up too. I think one of the things that was really surprising to me is the lack of understanding of neurodiversity and the automatic link between neurodiversity equals bad behavior. Like that was really shocking to me, and I feel like when in our adult world we deal with people who are neurodivergent all the time, and so kind of parent education feels really important to me.
Agreed.
Right, both for the classroom and in people's lives.
Absolutely, completely agree. The knowledge and information and research that's out there, it's only about 25 years old with the current terminology that's being used, a little bit older when we consider prior to the word neurodiversity. But because that information is relatively new, it is so much less understood, and really it only became something that people were really talking about and really trying to promote within the last 7 to 10 years. And I think that's part of sort of, it started sort of in the within the autistic community and then within neurodivergent communities in general, and sort of like keeps permeating and hopefully now into the school system too.
And one more thing too, is I don't know if you've seen The Good Doctor. Yeah. And so I have a neurodivergent child and we watched that together, and I feel like one powerful thing that I took away is how important a show like that is, right? Like normalizing neurodivergent people in successful ways.
Absolutely, and thank you for your correct usage of terminology. Really appreciate that. Any other questions?
I just want to say we're incredibly fortunate to have the two of you leading this charge with your expertise, and it clearly came through in the report. I think it's going to be extremely helpful to our community, and I think the recommendations you're just talking about, those conversations, there's so many children and families I know who who fall under this category and don't share that publicly, and that it's so validating to know there are so many more people who learn and think like I do than I ever expected. Like,
absolutely.
imagine that will be incredibly empowering.
Absolutely, and I think historically it's been a bit stigmatized if you have a difference, and that's why I really emphasize that differences are not viewed as deficits, they are just differences. And unfortunately, historically, I think that so many people have been met with very different reactions.
Oh yeah, the other thing that I wanted to point out is that in most of the research, it shows that about 15 to 20% of the population is neurodivergent. However, when we're looking at the definition of it, it doesn't require a diagnosis. So the important piece to remember is that is probably upward of 40 to 50% of the population does fall under this umbrella of being neurodivergent.
Any other board members? I'll just echo what's been said. I don't think it's a secret that CRC holds a special place in my heart. Katie's laughing because she did it with me for years. But I just think the report is incredibly well researched. It's going to be incredibly impactful, and it's incredibly timely and important. And I just think about the framework that you've set up for what you're advocating that we can achieve it helps everybody. It educates everybody and it celebrates everybody. And I just want to thank you for that.
Thank you so much. And again, thank you so much for your time, both listening to us today and for your time reading the report and your support for the report.
I think Mrs. Kim had a question. or
Sorry.
comment.
Yeah, I just, yes, I'll also echo my deep appreciation for the work that you've done. And it's been kind of nice that we've had updates throughout the year, and then to finally see this product, and all of us have gone to your meetings and seen where you've been at different places. But I also just wanted to say that I really appreciate, I also served on the CRC. I really appreciate the efforts that you're making to streamline the process for future CRCs. It's like so huge. And so I know it's a lot of work, and it's just going to be so helpful, and will probably make it a lot easier and maybe more accessible for a lot of people to participate. So thank you.
That's our hope too. All right. Well, thank you again so much for your time.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Thank
Well
you.
done.
Who has to follow that,
Is there any interest in a short break? Or do we motor ahead? Which?
Break.
Okay. 5 minutes? We have student staff planning, Dr. Cremascoli.
Yes, this is a report that was shared preliminarily with the board at the Committee of the Whole meeting on May 15th. while it's an annual report, this year we had aligned the action step under Goal 5 and thus discussed it briefly at the Committee of the Whole meeting, and Dr. Glowacki will now review it again. So I'll introduce Dr. Glowacki. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is the annual spring presentation that shares the initial planning for the 23-24 school year. Our planning adapts and changes as student registration becomes more predictable for the new school year. We'll be monitoring the student enrollment throughout the summer months. As shared at the Committee of the Whole meeting on May 15th, the expected student enrollment for next school year is decreasing a bit. This trend was also noted in the enrollment projections shared at the November Board of Education meeting this past fall. Expected enrollment for the 23-24 school year will be about 360 students less than were enrolled in the fall of 2019. We've been adjusting our homeroom or core classes each year based on student enrollment. Class size guidelines are posted here, including 24 students in grades K through 2, 27 students in grades 3 through 5, and 29 students in grades 6 through 8. These are the upper end of the class guidelines. Student registration is an annual process where parents register their children for the next school year. This year, student registration began on January 23rd, and our planning is contingent on student enrollment and registration. The last several years, we were navigating the pandemic, and our planning focused on homeroom or core classes. However, as part of the strategic planning work that we've done, one of our action items is to look at the enrollment in non-homeroom or non-core classes. More detail on that tonight. At the elementary level, we monitor the number of homerooms needed at each grade level at each school. Sometimes this necessitates moving staff from one grade level to another, or even to another school when the number of homerooms changes. Our goal is to remain as close to the guidelines as possible with as little disruption to students and staff. Thankfully, we did not find a need for a RIF or a reduction in force this year in general education. As a result of the work of our multi-tiered systems of support committee, there was a request for additional math support in our elementary schools. This math support teacher will support students who need extra support to improve upon skills or to enrich their learning. Next year, each of our elementary schools will have a math support teacher in their school, similar to the reading specialists that have been in our schools for over a decade. Grades 5 through 8, we utilize a similar planning process. For the last several years, Wilmette Junior High has had a AA team consisting of 2 teachers, teaching about 50 or 60 students to assist in keeping the core class sizes closer to those guidelines. In other words, our student enrollment necessitated those extra 2 teachers. This year, the AA team has primarily worked with 8th grade students, and there is not a need for a AA team in the 23-24 school year. Thankfully, we were able to find full-time assignments for these 2 teachers, and we also took a look at the class sizes in terms of the team math classes. At Wilmette Junior High, each core team of 5 teachers will see about 120 students. The reading teacher, for example, will see those 120 students on team. Same with the science teacher. However, because there are options for accelerated and Nutrier math, there are far fewer students in the team math classes. We are not recommending a change, however, in the number of math teachers for next year. We are talking with the math teachers in the department to determine how best to use the math expertise that we have on staff. For example, it may be possible for math teachers to support math intervention, similar to what is being planned at the elementary schools. There is no recommended change to the number of math teachers at Wilmette Junior High. We've taken a closer look at the creative arts staffing at Wilmette Junior High as well. Current 6th and 7th grade students were asked to note their preference in creative arts classes. These student preferences or interest is where we start with regarding the planning and staffing of creative arts. We then look to determine who is qualified to teach these preferred or interested classes. Because we have less students enrolled at Wilmette Junior High this coming year, we do not need to offer as many sections of creative arts classes as we have been in the past. Important, we're talking about sections, not the actual types of classes. We are and have been committed to offering chorus in grades 5 through 8, as you heard earlier tonight. Chorus at Highcrest is offered before school 2 mornings a week for each grade. This will continue next school year. At Wilmette Junior High, chorus is a creative arts class within the school day. There will be 1 period of 7th grade chorus and 1 period of 8th grade chorus next year. This is the time of year when we determine teaching assignments. We are currently looking to make sure all of our existing staff have full-time teaching assignments in the areas they are trained to teach. Once teaching assignments for existing staff are determined, we will seek to hire any necessary additional staff. Finally, we have also examined the world language class sizes. We are committed as a district to offering 5 world language options for our 5th through 8th grade students. Again, the goal is to have classes closer to the class size guidelines while providing full-time teaching assignments for our existing staff. In order to achieve this, with lower student enrollment, it required some movement of staff. All staff continue to be qualified, endorsed to teach their assigned subject areas. Finally, staffing for student services is driven by the needs of our students. We needed to reduce by 1 occupational therapist for the 23-24 school year. That occurred at the April board meeting. Students are continuing to need mental health and behavioral supports, and current staffing is appropriate for those existing student needs. We will continue to monitor that need. So the highlights. Any questions?
Board members, any questions?
Thank you
Mrs.
so
Fabes?
much, Heather.
Mrs. Fabes?
I was just really glad that we were able to take the staff and move them to math support. That was brilliant.
Anyone else?
I don't have a question. I just want to say thank you. I know it's a priority every year, and I appreciate the work that's done in November, looking at the enrollment reports and the work that is done in the spring. And I know every year it's difficult with the fluctuations, but as I said at the committee of the whole meeting, the decreases that we've seen over the past 3 years were surprising. I think around 10%. So that's just even a lot more time and thoughtful consideration over the past couple of years that is going into this, and really appreciate it. I would also like to say, as a parent with a rising 5th grade girl who is most looking forward to choir at Highcrest, that we're very excited to participate and support that program next year. So I appreciated all the dialogue about that this evening, and we are looking forward to it.
Anyone else? All right, thank you. We're ready for our fiscal year 2024 draft budget.
Again, we'll introduce Corey for that. And this was discussed at the committee of the whole meeting as well, but will be presented here for a more formal presentation and discussion. Corey?
Yeah, so we discussed this a week ago, and we'll review it again here. The presentation that was done last week was a little more detailed than what we'll see tonight. Tonight's a little more high-level view, but we'll focus in on what I consider to be the key points of looking at the draft budget. The fiscal year 24 budget timeline. So this is a fairly lengthy process for any district. In the month of May, we look at it for the first time in a draft format. Then as we roll into the month of June, we will just take a look at the tentative budget. And the reason the tentative budget is important is that the board is tentatively or approves a tentative budget so that it can be put on display for at least 30 days. In our case, much longer than 30 days, as it's on display over the summer. Then as we get ready to start a new school year in the month of August, what our process is that we will share with the board any changes from the spring to the August recommended budget that's going to be approved. And we'll do that at the August 14th Finance Committee. And then we'll follow that up with a public hearing at the August 28th meeting, and then ask the board to approve it so we can file those documents by the end of September as required by ISB and other agencies. So the operating funds, that's the main focus of when we're looking at the budget, what we really zero in on. There are 6 funds that comprise of the operating funds. There's the educational, operations and maintenance, transportation, Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund, which is a pension fund, the working cash, and then there's the tort liability fund. Then we also have 3 non-operating funds that we do see some activity in, but we don't consider them a part of our core operating funds. There's a debt service fund where we pay our principal and interest payments on long-term debt. We have the capital projects, the fund where we're required by ISB to pay for those large construction projects out of that fund. And then there's a fire prevention and safety fund, of which our current setup, there isn't any funds in there. So it's just a fund in name only for now. Let's start with the capital projects fund. So for this upcoming summer, when we think about a fiscal year budget that includes projects that occur over every summer, those projects span 2 fiscal years every time. So for this fiscal year 24 budget, we have the last portions of all the air conditioning projects that we're tackling starting next month. Then as we look ahead to the summer of 24, we would see the design portion of the cost for the partial roof replacement at the junior high, and then some smaller projects over at the junior high, McKenzie and Ramona. So we'd be looking in the capital projects fund to have a total budget of $13.1 million. Then in the debt service fund, where we're making those principal and interest payments, we're looking at a budget of $4.2 million for fiscal year 24. That includes payments on the Series 20 and 23 bonds. The revenue source to pay those off is a combination of existing fund balance in that fund, plus a dedicated tax levy that is set when those bonds are issued. Then there's also some debt certificates in which about $1 million of operating funds is paid from the O&M fund to cover that. So then transfers between funds, something that is allowed by ISB. We have 3 transfers planned for next year. We have a little over $1 million to go from the operations and maintenance to debt service to cover that debt certificate payment. Then we have $2.86 million going from O&M to capital projects. That's needed because capital projects is the fund where we pay for our capital projects, yet it has no annual recurring dedicated revenue source other than transfers from other funds. And then the last item on here is $138,000 to transfer from ed to debt service, which is for leases. That is due to a recent accounting pronouncement. The operating revenues, this is just a high-level look of the breakdown of revenues by type. D39 is a heavily locally funded district where when we take that property tax component with all the other local fees and we add them all up, we're looking at about 93% locally funded. Operating expenditures, the breakdown you see here where salaries and benefits comprise nearly 80% is a fairly typical structure that you would see amongst school districts in Illinois. And we'll look at the operating funds in total. So if the things I like to highlight on this slide, so if we take the revenues minus the expenditures, that puts us at a projected surplus of $4.3 million. However, we have 4.1 million of other uses of those funds, 2.9 for construction projects, and then another 1.2 to pay off principal and interest, those debt certificates and leases. So when we now account for that money, that leaves us at a net projected surplus for fiscal year 24 at roughly $279,000. At that projected surplus, that has us ending fiscal year 24 with a fund balance just shy of 42%, which is above our targeted 40. This particular graph shows operating revenues versus expenditures by fiscal year. You have 3 years of actual data. You have the fiscal year 23 budget, and then that draft budget for 24. The thing that we like to see here is consistency where those blue revenue bars are exceeding the green expenditure bars by just a little bit each year, and you can see a trend that we're continuing. If we were to start to see that deviate and where the green bar was higher, that would be kind of a point where we have either discussion where maybe for a fiscal year, that was a plan decision, or it may be indicative of something more that needed correction. Good for us, we are not in that position as of now. Then here is a graph that shows our operating fund balance percentage. I mean, at the end of the day, with our focus of a minimum fund balance of 40%, and then that high-end watermark of 65, this is really where we gravitate towards at the end of any budgeting process or any fiscal year to see where we measure up. We had those first 5 years on this graph of actual data. We were up around 70%. We had some planned expenditures for some large construction initiatives, taking us down into the 40% range for fiscal year 23. And then we see everything leveling off through the last 5 years of projections where we're hovering right around 42%. And that is the end of the presentation for this evening.
Thank you. Any questions, board members, comments? Mr. Cesaretti.
I have to thank you. Thank you, Corey, and administrative team for managing such a huge budget so efficiently. Appreciate it. One other point, which was, it is remarkable how much money goes through this budget, property taxes, and I want to do my annual shout out to patronize local business that pays a big share, and we appreciate it.
Anyone else? Okay, I think we're ready to move on to board policy review.
Yes, as is our tradition, we have first reading of board policies. A number are recommended this evening. Press issued policy updates in March, so these policies were reviewed as a result of those updates. You'll see that not all of the policies were revised. The policies that do have recommended revisions are listed on this evening's agenda, but they're 2:110, 2:210, 4:60, 5:30, 5:90, 5:150, 5:260, 6:20, and 6:135. This is the board's opportunity to provide input or ask questions about these policy revisions.
Does anyone have any input on any policies? Mrs. Kim?
Thank you. I just had a, I don't know if it was a question or maybe just a comment. This is on the policy 2:105, and I know it's not one of the parts that were being revised, but when I was looking at it, and I'm looking at page 5 of 5.
On a second there, 2:105. Thank you.
Is that page 5 of 5?
Yeah. Pardon?
The ethics and good fair now.
It's to do with
Complaints of sexual
It starts
harassment.
with ethics and good band, and
Oh,
then goes
right.
on to a number of other topics.
Oh, okay.
On page 5, it's complaints of sexual harassment.
Yeah, and I mean, it's such a minor point, but I kept going back to this, and so I just wanted to share my thoughts with you, is that maybe the heading is inaccurate, and that it really should maybe just be complaints of sexual harassment made against members of the Board of Education. Do you see, like, rather than having that, the last 3 words, because the section includes more than that. And Heather, I mean, I'm gonna, thank
into it.
you.
Yep.
It was
Thank
just
you.
a minor thing that I just couldn't get over. And then one other thing, I think there was just a typo on 6:20. I think you were changing the minimum of 185 days.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be a lot of school days.
There is actually a strike through on the floor, you just can't see it. But
Okay.
it does, I see what you're saying, but there is a strike through there. It's supposed to be 185. So
I
the
figured.
change. Strike through is placed perfect right along
Oh,
the
really?
line. Yeah.
You can see it?
It's like a horizontal
Yeah.
line in the floor.
Oh, on the floor,
Yeah.
right.
Bit longer.
Yes,
that
go ahead.
same one. There, I think there's also just a missing word under school day, just a little lower. The board establishes the length of the school with the recommendation. Yep.
Thank you. They also established the
Yeah.
length of the school.
Yeah, that's right. How many?
Okay, anyone else?
I have a silly question.
I don't believe in silly questions, but
Well,
continue.
I should know this, but 5:30 about physical exam. It's saying that all employees must get a physical? Okay, I didn't know that. Yep. Upon hire. Yeah, okay. We've done this before and that escaped me. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, that was a lot of information items. This is the second opportunity for audience members to address the board. Are there any audience members that would like to speak at this time? Please come forward to the podium, state your name and community of residence, and you have 3 minutes if this is your first time addressing the board tonight. Otherwise, you have 1 minute if you previously addressed the board at the beginning of the meeting.
You give me a 10-second warning so I don't stop mid-sentence again.
She's got the timer.
Very good. First, I want to say what a pleasure it was to come to the board this evening and how much I enjoyed this discussion on neurodivergence. You know, and this is the essence of science, which is more the field that I practice in understanding what we don't know. And what I came here today to say is that what we do know are the benefits of a good choral director and a good choral education. It teaches poise, self-confidence, the ability to perform in public. I don't think we have any performance programs here, do we? You know, we've never had a school play that I've known of. If my kid was going to perform, it was, you know, something that we bought from a traveling troupe that came through for 6 weeks. And this is it. This is all that we have to have the kids learn to use their breath and learn to perform in public, to work together, to work separately.
10 seconds.
And I urge you to reconsider the decision to cut the program director. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Julie Hanahan. I am a parent. I live in Glenview. I have a freshman and a 6th grader. I was unable to be here at the beginning of this meeting because there was a cheer event. My 6th grader is a neurodivergent child who is in prayer. I listened to the presentation this evening. I also actually watched the video of the presentation from last Monday. I am aware that we are not cutting choir, but we are eliminating the position of the choir director. And that is what I am concerned about. The cohesion of one director I sent a whole email. You guys can read the whole thing. I hope you do. But the cohesion of one choir director is what I am concerned about, and losing that cohesion and what that creates for these children. This is the only thing within school that my daughter participates other than academics. She is very engaged in school, but this is what she has, just like what the previous person was saying. Musicals at the Park District are subject to audition and selection. This is something that the kids can sign up for and participate in and get trained. Not every music teacher is a choral teacher and a choral director. And while that might be within their endorsements, I am concerned that it will not be within their specialty. And so I hope that you consider what it is that we're trying to accomplish by saving this salary. And if that savings is worth the potential detriment to some of our kids. And some of these kids are some of the kids who really need an outlet for their social emotional development and connection with other kids. So I just hope that you guys will reconsider that. And if there is a way to continue to have a choir director, that we do that. And also, please read my very extensive email that went through several enumerated points. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kimberly Newman, and I have 3 children who live in Wilmette, and one of them is a graduate from B39, and the 2 of them are still in school. It strikes me that I'm just short enough that probably you can't see me.
I'm just going to move over.
Just grab the microphone so
Oh,
that
okay.
people who might be elsewhere can hear you as
Okay.
well. Perfect, thank you.
Okay, so I understand, I got it. We're not cutting the choir program. Thank you. I didn't really think it was in danger. The issue at hand, which I understand to be, is whether or not D39 will fund a dedicated choir teacher position for grades 5 through 8. And that might be up for discussion, it might not be. I hope that we're still in time to affect the decision. Dialogue should be about whether this dedicated position is needed. That's what the dialogue, in my mind, is about. So you may see an opportunity to fold in this position with a general music certified teacher to save money. Why not? I'm here to tell you why you shouldn't do that. What value does D39 really place on its music program? A wonderful longtime elementary music teacher is retiring this year. She spearheaded the district-wide music education program. And students go on from that elementary school and others to the middle school, and they get further training by a specific trained professional. The choir program is part of a three-prong, as I see it, music program, along with band and orchestra. Sometimes it's only the music program. It's only the only music program or music prong a school has. We're not in that position, and we can hopefully afford not to be in that position. We are not the school district who will compromise quality for cost savings. I hope we will not be. We are not the school district who will send a message to our community that we don't think as highly of our choir program as we do our band and orchestra programs to fund a dedicated choir teacher position. I hope we will not do that. I think we need to fund a dedicated choir teacher position for our students, for continuity, for all the reasons that have been previously mentioned. Choir teachers, obviously with specialized training, years of training, they know how to interact with students, they know how to get a rise out of them, no pun intended. And I think relegating or folding in that position under a general music education teacher or a teacher who's just qualified to teach music is not something that our district wants to do or should do to send a message.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to address the board? Okay, we will move on to the consent agenda. The next order of business is the consent agenda under the action items. Are there any items that the board would like pulled from the consent agenda? Okay, Mrs. Hart, please proceed with the motions.
I move to approve the personnel report dated May 22nd, 2023. I move to approve the audit services contract renewal. I move to approve as first reading of Board of Education policies 2:20 powers and duties of the Board of Education and indemnification, 2:30 Board of Education elections, 2:50 board member term of office, 2:105 ethics and gift ban, 2:110 board officers, 2:210 organizational board meeting, 2:250 access to district public records, 2:265 Title IX sexual harassment grievance procedures, 3:10 general school administration, 3:40 superintendent, 3:50 administrative personnel other than the superintendent, 3:60 responsibility of the building principal and assistant principal, 4:60 purchases and contracts, 5:30 hiring process and criteria, 5:90 abused and neglected child reporting, 5:150 personnel records, 5:260 student teachers, 5:290 educational support personnel employment, termination, and suspension, 6:20 school year calendar and day, 6:50 school wellness, 6:60 curriculum content, 6:65 student social emotional development, 6:135 accelerated placement, 6:160 English language learners, 6:280 grading and promotion, 6:340 student testing and assessment program, 7:10 equal education opportunities, 7:20 harassment of students prohibited, 7:100 health, eye, and dental examinations, immunizations, and exclusion of students, 8:20 community use of school facilities. I move to approve the accounts payable for bills listed between April 25th, 2023 to May 22nd, 2023 in the following amounts. Educational Fund, $476,129.01. O&M Fund, $65,638.53. Debt Services, $66,151.25. Transportation, $229,075.38. Capital Projects, $1,084,216. Total all funds, $1,921,210.17. I move to approve the manual checks issued between April 25th, 2023 and May 22nd, 2023 in the following amounts. Educational Fund, $888,272.10. O&M Fund, $139,402.93. Transportation, $63.32. Capital Projects, $275.19 for a total all funds, $1,028,013.54.
May I have a second?
Second.
The motion has been moved and seconded. Would the clerk please call the roll?
John Cesaretti,
Yes.
Ann Hart,
Yes.
Bonnie Kim,
Yes.
Allison Paphos,
Yes.
Amy Paling,
Yes.
Lisa Schneider-Fabes,
Yes.
Erin Stone.
Yes. Motion's carry. Conference items. Is there any old business?
I don't know if it's old business or new business, but I just wanted to make a note to board members about graduation and attendance thereof. If you have one ceremony versus the other that you'd like to attend, if you could just give me a message, we can make sure that both ceremonies are well supported by board members. And if you want to come to both, you could let me know that too. Thank you.
Any other old business? Is there any new business? Is there any good in welfare? Mrs. Kim.
Hello. I just wanted to say that my son, who is at High Crest right now, he's in 6th grade, and he started playing chess in a chess tournament that actually takes place once a month in Skokie. And anyways, the last one of the year, of the academic year, took place a couple weeks ago. And they were, every time that he's gone like 3 times. He's talked to his friends, and there are more and more kids who are coming from High Crest. Actually, I don't know, just what the history of it is, like how many kids attend. And I know that there's a chess ed offering on Thursday after school as well. But anyways, but there were a couple of kids, and if you have like 3 kids in a particular bracket, they're from a particular school, that you can be a team. But anyways, it's a long-winded way of saying that there were 3 kids. Unfortunately, my son wasn't one of them. He was in a different bracket, but that they won first place for High Crest.
Oh, so
And
cool.
yeah, and I think that they brought in the trophy, which is like if you win, like as an individual, they're like this, but if you win the team one, it's like really, really big. And so they brought it into Highcrest the next day, on Monday or something like that. And I don't know if it's probably displayed, but one of the kids, it's so funny because he said, well, Highcrest wins, like for certain years, and he was kind of trying to explain to me, and I said, well, what are you talking about? He goes, well, you can see in the trophy case that they won in 2013, and then there was a 2-year gap, and then, like, he had figured out why, and I was like, oh, this is, anyways, it was really, really nice, and, and some of the parents were talking about trying to make sure that that happens, starting in the fall, so.
Excellent. Thank you. Any other good and welfare? I have something. So let me give you a little context. My last name is Stone. So about 1.5 years ago, I know it's gonna get even whatever, Katie Lee. So about 1.5 years ago for my birthday, the 6th graders I was working with gave me the best present I've ever gotten, which was a box of rocks. So one of them had the idea, I'm not kidding, it's not like the Charlie Brown Halloween thing where he's like, I got a rock and he's sad. No, this was literally the best thing that's ever happened. So 36 6th graders had each made a rock for me. And, 3 boys had like cut out pictures of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's face and like taped them on a rock. So you can imagine how good these rocks are. Okay, so they've kind of been on my mind off and on since then. And as I was driving to the library a few weeks ago, I drove by the east side of Mackenzie by the front entrance. And I noticed that there is a tree there with a bunch of brightly colored rocks surrounding the tree in like a concentric circle type of situation. And so I thought, I bet there's something going on with those rocks. So I waited until I had some time, went by, parked the car, got out, and I went and looked at all the rocks. And, there's different things painted on them. There's a lot of words painted on them, and I took the liberty of writing down the words to read tonight. Some of these words, I should just emphasize, are repeated on multiple rocks. Love, kindness, brave, proud, creative, amazing, strong, determined, curious, leaders, unity, supportive, helpful, caring, joy, be you, and follow your dreams. And I know. And I was overwhelmed at the thought of these kids expressing their inner emotions and their desires and their feelings and dreams on these beautiful rocks that can, line the grounds of this tree outside of Mackenzie. And I just want to say that I think the people who work on behalf of these children rock. And I think, yep, and I think that the parents who are raising children in a time that is not easy to be raising children rock. And most of all, these kids, they really just rock. So that's my good and welfare for tonight. Yes, Mrs. Paling.
So I never want to follow you?
It's not a competition.
But tonight I will, because I want to acknowledge and celebrate you in the completion of your master's degree.
Thanks.
I'm so glad that you are.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Yes, thank you. Okay. Yes.
So I wanted to second these congratulations, but also just say I'm relieved that even though you're president, you still do
Me too. All right. Having nothing further, may I have a motion to adjourn to executive session to discuss collective negotiations, specific personnel, and special education/individual student matters?
I move to adjourn to executive session to discuss collective negotiations, specific personnel, and special education/individual student matters.
May I have a second?
Second.
Motion having been made and seconded, will the clerk please call the roll?
John Caesarretti,
Yes.
Ann Hart,
Yes?
Bonnie Kim,
Yes.
Allison Pathless,
Yes.
Amy Paling,
Yes.
Lisa Schneider-Fabes,
Yes.
Aaron Stone.
Yes. Motion carried. We are now adjourned to executive session, and the time is 9:31.